Women communicate desire through silence more than words ever could. What they crave most is what they'll never ask for directly. The things she'll never ask for are the things she craves most. And the men who understand this control everything. In 1957, psychologist Leon Festinger published research on cognitive dissonance, the gap between what people say they want and what they actually desire. Women tell you one thing with their words, while their nervous system screams something completely different. This isn't about tricks. It's about understanding the architecture of female desire. Most men spend their entire lives playing checkers while women operate in dimensions they never learn to see. They listen to what she says, they ignore what she does, and they wonder why the passion died 6 months in, why she seems distant, why the chemistry that felt electric now feels like a job interview. Here's what they don't teach you. Female desire doesn't operate on logic. It operates on something older, something deeper, something that predates language itself. Women grew up in a world that punished them for wanting too much, for asking too directly, for appearing too eager. So they learned to speak in code, to communicate through behavior, through tension, through what they don't say. And if you can't read that language, you're living in a translation that's always one step behind reality. This matters because your ability to decode these signals determines the entire trajectory of your intimate life. Not your money, not your looks, not your ability to perform some rehearsed routine, your ability to see what she needs before she has to reduce it to words. That's the difference between being chosen and being settled for. Behavioral psychologist Dr. Doist Wednesday. Martin spent years studying female sexuality. Her research revealed something most men never consider. Women's desire intensifies in the presence of strategic uncertainty, not chaos, uncertainty. The same neurological pathways that fire during the early stages of attraction. Dopamine, norepinephrine, anticipation. They don't activate from comfort. They activate from controlled unpredictability, from a man who knows when to lead and when to pull back, when to give her exactly what she wants, and when to make her wait for it. Anthropologist Helen Fisher's brain imaging studies showed something similar. When women are attracted to a man, their brains light up in regions associated with craving, not affection. Craving, the same areas that activate in addiction, in pursuit, in the hunt. This isn't a flaw in female psychology. It's a feature, one that modern dating has tried to sanitize, to make palatable, to pretend doesn't exist. But biology doesn't care about social performance. It cares about what actually works. And what works is almost always the opposite of what you've been told. So let's descend into the psychology, into the behaviors women crave but will never articulate. Not because they're manipulative, but because articulating them would destroy their power. Some truths lose their magic the moment they're spoken. This is one of them. 6 behaviors that trigger something primal in the female nervous system. 6 things she wants you to do, but will never ever ask for directly. Pay attention, because once you see this, you can't unsee it. 1, she wants you to make her feel slightly out of control, not unsafe, out of control. There's a difference. Most men confuse dominance with aggression. They think taking charge means being loud, forceful, imposing, but real dominance is quiet. It's in the way you move, the way you touch her wrist when you're leading her through a crowded room, the way you decide where you're going without asking her opinion first, and she feels relief that she doesn't have to manage everything. Women spend their entire day in control, making decisions, managing people, navigating social dynamics. By the time she's with you, the last thing she wants is another committee meeting disguised as a relationship. She wants to feel like she can let go, like you've got this, like she doesn't have to be the responsible one for the next hour. Psychologist Marta Mana's research on female desire found that women are most aroused when they feel desired, not when they feel in control, when they're the object of pursuit, when they're wanted so intensely that it overrides their own carefully managed self-image. But here's the key. She can't ask for this. The moment she has to instruct you to take control, you're not actually taking control. You're following orders, and that kills the entire dynamic. She wants you to read the room, to sense when she's testing your frame, to hold your ground when she pushes back, not because you're fighting her, but because you know something she doesn't in that moment. You know she'll thank you later, not with words, with how she looks at you when no one else is watching. 2, she wants you to stop asking for permission. This one destroys more relationships than almost anything else. The constant negotiation, the endless checking in. Is this okay? Do you want me to? Should I? Every question weakens the tension. It turns desire into a transaction. Women don't want a man who treats intimacy like a legal contract. They want a man who can read the situation and move with confidence, not recklessness. Confidence. There's a study by psychologist Terry Conley on consensual non-consent fantasies. The data showed that a significant percentage of women fantasize about scenarios where they're not the one making the decisions. Not because they want actual harm, but because the fantasy of being desired so intensely that you take the lead is intoxicating. It removes the burden of choice. It removes the fear of being judged for wanting too much. Now let's be clear, consent is non-negotiable. But consent doesn't mean asking for approval at every micro step. It means building a relationship where she trusts you to read her signals, where a look, a breath, a subtle shift in her body tells you everything you need to know. That requires presence, awareness, attunement, not a verbal checklist. When you stop asking for permission and start acting with calibrated boldness, something shifts. She stops feeling like your teacher. She starts feeling like your woman. And that distinction is everything. Ask yourself, when was the last time you led mistrop without looking back for her approval? If you have to think about the answer, you already have it. 3, she wants you to push back when she tests you. Women test men not because they're malicious, because they need to know if you're solid, if you'll hold your frame when she applies pressure, if you'll crumble the moment she challenges you. Most men fail this test immediately. She says something sharp. He apologizes. She withdraws. He chases. She creates distance. He collapses into reassurance-seeking behavior. And in that moment, she loses respect. Not consciously, but deep in the part of her brain that's evaluating whether you're someone she can rely on when things get hard. Psychologist John Gottman's research on relationship stability found that couples who engage in healthy conflict, where both partners hold their ground, have significantly higher satisfaction rates. It's not the absence of conflict that predicts success. It's the ability to maintain your identity during conflict. When she tests you, she's not trying to win. She's trying to see if you'll disappear, if you'll abandon yourself to keep her comfortable, and if you do, she'll never feel safe with you. Because if you can't hold your ground with her, how will you hold your ground with the world? So when she pushes, you stay calm. You don't react. You don't get defensive. You certainly don't crumble. You acknowledge her. You stay present, and you don't move. That immovability, that's what she's craving. Not because she wants to fight, but because she wants to know you're unshakable. 4, she wants you to maintain mystery. The death of desire is complete transparency. When she knows everything about you, when you've shared every insecurity, every fear, every childhood wound in the first 3 months, when there's nothing left to discover. Desire requires space. It requires the unknown. Psychologist Esther Pell talks about this extensively in her work on eroticism. She says, fire needs air. That intimacy and desire are not the same thing. That the couples who maintain erotic connection are the ones who preserve a degree of separateness, of mystery. Most men kill attraction by becoming completely available, by being an open book, by sharing everything in a desperate attempt to create closeness. But closeness without tension is just friendship. And women don't want to sleep with their friends. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you maintain your own internal world. You have thoughts she doesn't have access to. You have pursuits that exist outside of her. You have a life that doesn't revolve around making her happy every second of every day. When she asks what you're thinking and you say nothing, sometimes that's the right answer. Not because you're hiding something, but because not everything needs to be shared. Some things are yours. And that privacy, that slight distance keeps her curious, keeps her wondering, keeps her invested. The moment you become completely predictable is the moment she starts looking at you like furniture, comfortable, reliable, boring. 5. She wants you to prioritize your mission over her. This is the one that sounds counterintuitive, but it's also the most powerful. Women say they want your attention, your time, your focus. But what they actually respond to is a man who has something more important than them, a mission, a purpose, a direction. Psychologist David Buss's research on mate selection shows that women are attracted to men with high status and ambition. Not because they're gold diggers, but because ambition signals genetic fitness. It signals that you're capable of navigating the world, of building something, of leading. When you drop everything for her, you're signaling the opposite. You're signaling that she's your entire world, and that's suffocating. She doesn't want to be your world. She wants to be part of a world you're building. This is why the men who are too available, too eager, too responsive, they lose attraction fast. That made her the center of their existence. And in doing so, they'd made themselves small. Women are attracted to expansion, to growth, to a man who's moving towards something. When you prioritize your mission, when you tell her you can't see her tonight because you have work to do, something happens. She doesn't resent you, she respects you, she starts competing for your time instead of expecting it. And that shift in dynamic changes everything, because now she's chasing, now she's investing, now she's wondering if she's doing enough to keep you. That's not manipulation, that's just biology responding to value. 6. She wants you to end the interaction first. This is subtle, but it's devastating when you get it wrong. Most men linger. They overstay. They stretch the conversation, the date, the moment, trying to extract every last drop of connection. And in doing so, they kill the tension. Women are attracted to men who have other places to be, who have a life that's full, who can enjoy the moment and then leave while it's still good. There's a principle in behavioral psychology called the peak end rule. People remember experiences based on the peak moment and how it ended, not the average of the whole experience. So if you stay too long, if you let the energy fizzle out, if you're the one who's clearly trying to extend things, she remembers that. She remembers the desperation, the neediness, the sense that you didn't have anywhere better to be. But if you're the one who ends it first, if you're the one who says, "I've got to run while things are still good," she's left wanting more. She's left thinking about you. She's left wondering when she'll see you again. That's the space where attraction grows, not in the saturation, in the absence. Anthropologist Margaret Mee observed that in every culture she studied, the person who controlled the terms of separation held the social power, not the person who clung, the person who walked away first. This applies to everything. Text conversations, dates, arguments, intimacy. Be the first to pull back, not out of game playing, but because you genuinely have a life that's calling you forward, and she'll chase that energy every single time. Here's the final truth they won't tell you. Women don't want you to ask them what they want. They want you to already know. Not because they're playing games, but because the man who has to ask is the man who doesn't understand. And understanding is the entire foundation of desire. You can't negotiate attraction. You can't reason someone into wanting you. You can't talk your way into passion. You can only embody the behaviors that trigger her nervous system to respond. Most men are so afraid of making a mistake that they make the biggest mistake of all. They play it safe. They sanitize themselves. They become a version of a man that no one could object to and that no one desires. Because desire doesn't come from comfort. It comes from tension, from polarity, from a man who's willing to lead even when the outcome is uncertain. Everything on this list requires risk. It requires you to stop performing and start being, to stop seeking approval and start creating the reality you want. The men who get this don't ask for permission. They don't wait for confirmation. They move through the world with a quiet certainty that women can feel from across the room. Not arrogance, certainty. And that certainty is magnetic, because in a world full of men who are afraid to be men, the one who isn't becomes instantly rare, instantly valuable, instantly unforgettable. She won't tell you any of this. She can't. The moment she has to explain it, the magic dies. But now you know. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. You can ignore it. You can rationalize it away. You can tell yourself it's not true because it doesn't fit the world you've been sold. Or you can accept that desire operates on frequencies most men never learn to hear, and you can start tuning in. The choice has always been yours.